Okay, so I'm gonna really say that clock says 2:30, that one says 2:33, and my phone says 2:34, but I was looking at that clock, so I did start on time. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon. So, welcome to the MTA board meeting. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. If I can first do a roll call. Start on this side today. Janet Miller.
Here.
Jessica Dolphin.
Present.
Catherine Hayes-Sassel.
Here.
And Aaron Thompson.
Present.
We are all present and accounted for. That's great. If I can have a motion for approval of the January 25th, 2024 MTA board minutes.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, additions or deletions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
God, that sounded good mics today. Good job. Public comment. It's time for our public comments, and I do have one request for public comments, and it's Manning Hall. Good afternoon, Mr. Hall. And as you may or may not know or may have been told, that you have 2 minutes, and there's a timer that should show up right in front of you, so you'll know when your time is up. But thank you for being here.
Awesome, thank you. I just wanted to thank you all for adding e-bikes now being able to put on front of buses. I think that's a huge improvement, and I love it. We need more of that. I wanted to talk about transit-oriented design and just housing along our corridors. I think if you saw in Metro Council, Emily Benedict proposed building a library with at least or no more than 3 stories of housing above it. I think those are the type of partnerships and it kind of community working across just like the city to, build housing. I think, WeGo should be able to partner with like MDHA, the Barnes Fund, for like all the affordable housing developers in Nashville when we're building these, transit centers, thinking specifically of like the Sobro one. That's such a prime real estate. If housing were to be able to build on top of that, I think that would be wonderful. And I think that would, be innovative and just show Nashville how we can work together to make good things happen. And if I had anything else to say, yeah, and I just want to just focus on safety as well. I think our bus drivers do a great job at keeping the riders safe, and I just want to make sure they are able to be safe as well. So any actions that can be taken to make sure we care for our bus drivers, because they do a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I do not have any other requests. Are there any other requests that have not filled out the form for public comments? Anyone else wish to make a public comment? Hearing none, that closes the public comment section of our agenda today. And next on our agenda are the information only items. Would any of the board members like to have any of the information items pulled out for discussion?
I wanted to highlight a couple of things, if that's okay.
That is very fine.
Thank you. So number one, I want to make sure that everybody looks at the upcoming procurements projects list. I remember former board member Walter Searcy used to do that, and I just want to remember to do that. But also, starting on page 16 with the budget proposal to Metro Finance, there's some really great information in there about the benefits of transit. And I just wanted to highlight a couple. Number one, on page 19 at the top on economic opportunity, WeGo Public Transit continues to provide and build sustained, targeted, and effective support for youth, vulnerable citizens, essential workers, small businesses, and neighborhoods to ensure their participation in the way Nashville moves. I love that whole paragraph. At the bottom of that same page, the fiscal sustainability and strengthening of neighborhood infrastructure, I thought was incredibly inspirational to me. Specifically referring to the cost benefit study that WeGo Transit commissioned, supporting various funding applications for the North Nashville Transit Center. Noted that the cost benefit ratio for the project was $7.76 on every dollar spent. And that's using US DOT methodologies. I think that is an incredible flag for how beneficial investing in transit infrastructure is to communities of Nashville and our economy. And then on page 24, there's a litany, bullet point list of how access to more, better, and improved services can affect and improve lives of our residents. And I think that the more cases that can be made along these lines, both an economic benefit and a quality of life benefit, access to opportunity, the more we can pull that out and highlight that and be cheerleaders, I'm all here for it. Thank you, Ed and team, for putting this together. This looks great. Fingers crossed that we have a favorable, response to our budget request with those additional investments. And one other thing I just wanted to thank you, and I really liked your sweatshirt. Hashtag transit is essential. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are quite welcome, and thank you for those comments and observations. Ed and his team do an incredible job, and year after year after year after year, and there could be another year after year, Ed. I'll just throw that in there too for you. You know, I said every month till we get there. But as always, beautifully done and thoughtful and visionary, so thank you. And thank you, Jessica, for highlighting those things. Anyone else have anything they like to pull out and talk about?
I had one question, and this might be for a future board meeting, but in the upcoming procurement projects, the mention of video surveillance equipment purchase and installation, maybe this ties back a little bit into the security issue for drivers that was mentioned earlier, but maybe at a future board meeting, we could hear a little bit more about the current capability of video surveillance, where it is, if it's been effective, are we expanding it? Is it recorded? Is it monitored? Things like that.
Sure, we can definitely do that, both the mobile and the stationary video surveillance, and frankly, some of the other security technology that we have. The other thing that's going on now is we're working with a company called Marine Tiger. The board may remember approving that contract several months ago. That's doing a full-blown security plan review and plan update, and that's under our contract, but it's in cooperation with ourselves as well as Metro Nashville Police Department. So the police department's been a great partner, and the board will definitely, as information comes out of that and recommendations, will definitely be briefed on that.
That'd be great, and maybe that's a good point. Maybe it just gets baked into that, but I would be interested in hearing about the surveillance.
And I might also suggest I don't see Nick Odom here today, but he does all the safety and all that maybe at some point he might, be willing to sort of take you around on a tour, and then you could see how some of it works exactly. That was always helpful for me to have that visual and sort of know exactly where it was and what it was doing, including but not limited to the cameras and the video on buses as well. So I think he's very good about, and very patient with you, and he teaches you all of that information.
And he loves showing his stuff off. So.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else have anything? Hearing none, I will move on from the information-only items, and I will turn this over to you, Ms. Doppin, as Chair of Operations and Finance Committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Happy to be here today discussing WeGo board business and moving on to the Operations and Finance Committee. Up first is the quarterly route performance report with Katie Freudberg. As she makes her way to this podium, I wanted to shout out and give congratulations to Renuka, who's not even here, but and her team for the Nashville Soccer Club community impact collaboration that they have now announced, and it looks really great, and I'm really proud to be part of WeGo in that. Katie, your turn. Tell us about the quarterly performance report.
Okay. Good afternoon. Today I'll be presenting the quarterly route performance report for October through December 2023. We were again at around 97% of pre-pandemic ridership, which is about where we were the quarter before. The major difference this quarter being that it did have Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, so maintaining that number is likely a sign that we're still seeing growth in ridership. I wanted to draw your attention to Route 23 Dickerson Pike, which is one that we haven't really talked about, but it's seen tremendous growth over the last couple of years and is about at 125% of pre-COVID ridership. This is a route that before COVID, it was very close to crisis. It was carrying about 32 passengers an hour, routinely running late, leaving people behind because of full buses. And, then COVID happened. It dropped to about 50% of its previous ridership. But it was a route where we saw a really quick return of ridership. And of course, at that time, we had the opportunity to realign resources to address those issues that we were seeing. So now it operates about double the service that it did pre-COVID, which is obviously one reason for the major increase in ridership. Dickerson Pike has also seen some major increases in density, including a lot of new affordable housing, which has been good for ridership. It's also been great for sidewalk construction. Dickerson Pike has sidewalks on about a quarter of the route right now, which is obviously problematic. But between developers and several NDOT and TDOT projects, we are starting to see some of those gaps gradually fill in, which is great for pedestrian safety, obviously. It also means that eventually buses will be able to travel faster. Right now, Dickerson has extremely close stop spacing in some places. I think our closest stops are about 75 feet apart, and that's because you can't walk between them. There's just no path of travel. So as we see those start to fill in, we should be able to go to a more reasonable stop spacing, which should speed up bus service there. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we have added regional services to the quarterly performance report. Just for reference and comparison, of course, you'll see that there's a stark difference in ridership recovery between the two of them. Primarily because they served different markets pre-COVID that have returned in very different ways. And of course, local services have, they've had a little bit more flexibility in how we can return service to realign resources with new patterns that we're seeing, whereas the commuter-based service, we didn't necessarily have those different markets that we could realign service to. We will be looking at the future of regional services soon as part of the update to InMotion, to determine what path those should take going forward. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Katie. Do we have any questions for Katie?
I have a question, and I'm glad you added the regional. It's fascinating. What do we attribute it to that the regional, everybody's just working from home? Or I know the state sent a lot of people home, but we've done so well in getting back to pre-pandemic on the Davidson County service. And gosh, you look at these percentages and 45%. And so what's that about?
It was primarily serving a very limited market. A lot of state employees who have had major shifts in their work schedules, right, especially working from home. It was already a very limited service as well. Right. Whereas local services are likely to attract, new riders. Mm-hmm. The regional services have a very limited availability that's not likely to draw in maybe new people who weren't riding pre-COVID.
And it's so interesting to see the total of 37,000 versus 1.6 million on our frequent. This is really very educational. So thank you for that.
Janet, a couple of things I'd highlight too. Kate is 100% on target, but the RTA, the regional services have always been really an downtown office commuter market. And obviously that's one of the markets, not just here, but all over the country, that was hardest hit by the pandemic and really hasn't recovered. We started seeing the declines with, because not only did the state change the, ability of employees to work from home, but they've really been, offloading downtown office space for several years. So even before the pandemic, we were seeing those declines. Then the other thing we're seeing, and I think it's an ongoing reason for concern, is and I'm looking particularly at the WeGo Star. The other thing I think that stands out on regional ridership is Star ridership is significantly higher than any of the regional corridors, even though Wilson County corridor isn't necessarily the busiest relative to Rutherford or Williamson. So the Star is popular. The challenge is, as the downtown core is changing, Riverfront Station becomes kind of an issue as a station. And we saw that when, can't think of the name of the company, the big telecommunications company moved their headquarters to the Gulch from out of that area. And we'll probably see another hit when Pinnacle Bank moves to the Yards and a couple of the other employers who have been WeGo Ride partners. So a lot of it, frankly, it's one of the reasons why the Connect Downtown effort is every bit as important to the RTA, maybe more so than to the MTA, because we have to be able to better connect those services to where the jobs are.
Thank you, Steve.
I do have one more question for
go ahead.
Katie. So when we look at our Nashville routes, is it a change during the day? Is it busy all day? Or you know how before we used to have morning and evening? So is it sort of flattening out throughout the whole day because of so many different work schedules?
It did. We've actually returned to having fairly traditional peaks in the morning and afternoon, which I don't think we really thought was going to happen. We are seeing higher ridership during midday and late at night, higher weekend ridership than we did previously. So there's a little bit of flattening happening, but we did go back to having peak ridership. We also lost Monday and Friday are drastically lower than Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that does reflect the work from home policies.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Freudberg about quarterly route performance? Katie, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. And I wanted to note that you also have included the WeGo link zones at the bottom of page 41, I guess. And I appreciate that. I know it's in A right now, but 640 total riders between October and December is kind of nice to see. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next up for operations and finance, speaking of service, we're going to hear from Carl. Is that right? Yep. On body on chassis cutaway buses.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
What we're going to do is we're wanting to buy cutaways, and concurrent with our capital plan for fleet, this is a needed purchase. So what we're going to do is ask for the board to approve a contract to purchase up to 125 cutaways over 5 years. And the request for proposal was put out in about October-ish. The evaluation criteria was developed and a team of evaluators selected. We evaluated, and Southern Bus won that contract. And that contract was it wasn't very competitive, but it was sent to WeGo website, Transit Talent, and then several companies that sell cutaways were contacted, being Southern Bus, Coach and Equipment Sales, Carpenter Bus Sales, Creative Bus Sales, and the original due date for the responses was November 10th. Before the deadline, there were 2 responses. One was from the Bus Center and one from Southern Bus. The evaluation committee found that Southern Bus and Mobility the most advantageous, demonstrating the needs that we had. And then a best and final offer was presented by Southern Bus and Mobility on December 1, and there was cost savings involved, not much, but a little bit, and improved delivery times. So we've had a third-party inspector, and that was Ameritran, and they were formerly TRC, and we've been doing business with them for a while, maintenance audits. So they conducted a pre-award audit on the vehicles, and they found that they were Buy America compliant. And then what we'll do after the buses are delivered, we'll have them come back in and do another audit for compliance for Buy America. And this is a two-part ask. So what we're going to ask is not only to approve the purchase of 125 cutaways over 5 years, but we're going to ask for an initial order of 19 buses if you all approve that contract. So that's a two-part ask. So what staff is going to request is for the board to approve the chief executive officer to enter into a contract with Southern Bus and Mobility to purchase up to 125 coach-on-chassis or body-on-chassis buses over a 5-year period. And the overall contract with Southern Bus and Mobility will not exceed $30 million. Now, and then that's in addition, staff is requesting to purchase 19 body-on-chassis cutaways immediately from this contract. And these buses will replace buses that are currently used in WeGo Access. And we've had this conversation a number of times. And these will be used to transport elderly and disabled folks around the community. And what they're replacing is the buses have exceeded their useful life 2 or 3 times fold, you know. And this purchase order, yeah, I was reading there, and it's like, okay, they've already passed the Buy America audit, so that's my report.
Thank you, Carl. Any
Yes.
questions for Carl on the purchase or contract for cutaway chassis?
I just have a curiosity question. I mean, we were dealing with delivery date delays during pandemic and all. What's our delivery time? Has it tightened up? When we say if we purchase them tomorrow, how long till they get here? I guess is the question.
March of 25.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add on to that, we currently have an order of 40 that you guys, that the board approved last year. Those are starting to roll in. We just had 2 come in last week, and we're going to see the rest starting to trickle in week after week over the next several weeks. And I think the final delivery date for the last order is sometime in mid-April, I believe. So
that's good.
We'll start to see a lot of those start to trickle in over the next several weeks.
Every time I go by one of those with the old logo, it just amazes me. So I think this is a great idea.
That wasn't the adjective I was going to use.
Carl, I have one question, and I think it might be the easiest and maybe the dumbest question of the day, but I should know this by now. What does it mean to be a cutaway bus?
A smaller vehicle. In other words, a 14-passenger. It's a van, but it's been cut away, and that's the box on the back.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm still learning.
These are those, they basically build the bus on a Ford chassis. And that's actually the core of the supply chain problem was Ford just couldn't put out enough chassis through the pandemic. So it really affected that industry. But
That was a great question, actually.
yeah, not a common term outside our little world.
Carl, I have a question. Have we done business with Southern Bus before?
We have in the past, but we're wanting to enhance that relationship.
Okay.
If I can add on to that as well, we actually utilize Southern Bus and Mobility to execute a refurbishing for cutaways. We had those 6 buses last year that we came to you, and I believe we've already received 2 of those refurbishments as of now, and we're going through final inspections just to get those back on the road. If I'm not mistaken, actually, those probably are on the road now, correct, Carl?
Correct.
Okay.
We also bought 6 cutaways that were non-Buy America compliant back in April of last year.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, quick question. What does this number do to our fleet currently of cutaway buses?
The average fleet age will reduce greatly. I mean, we're replacing vehicles that are supposed to be replaced every 5 years. We have some that are 11 years old with 450, 500,000 miles on them.
This purchase assuring timely delivery should put us back into our normal cycle. So the nice thing with these buses, because they have a relatively short life cycle, is we can get them pretty much we should basically, based on the size of the fleet, be buying about 17, 18, 19, 20 a year. So this kind of puts us back in cycle, where the 40 will be a big infusion, that we'll have to kind of stretch out. So.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a healthier fleet. Right, for sure.
And you can confirm they will be purple, right?
The checklist includes purple and Buy America compliant. Any other questions for Carl on the purchase of body and chassis cutaway buses? Okay, Margaret, I have a question. Do I need to approve or motion this in two different ways or just one motion?
No, I mean, no, you just make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Gotcha. And I appreciate that clarification. So, Operations and Finance Committee makes a recommendation that we adopt or motions to approve the recommendation from staff on MA-24-002 as stated.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carl, you have your cutaways.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Next up is Ms. Lydia Benda. She's going to talk to us about RFQs for an on-call contractor for sidewalk and bus platform construction. Thank you, Lydia.
Madam Chair, am I on? Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and the board members.
Good afternoon.
I'm presenting the on-call contracts for sidewalks and bus platform construction. It's on page 45 of your board book. So WEGO staff has developed a priority list for improving transit stops in our system. We have over 1,620 transit stops, and 282 of those have existing shelters. So the Transit Stop Improvement Program focuses on improving transit stops on the high injury network with high ridership. So this indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, IDIQ, construction contract is intended to facilitate the construction of the needed infrastructure for improving transit stops according to our design guidelines. So having these contracts in place will expedite the bidding and construction process for us. And the request for qualifications was published on the agency website and Transit Talent on November 2nd, 2023, to build sidewalks and platforms for the Transit Stop Improvement Program. 4 proposals were received on December 14th, 2023. That included BC Mason Group, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and Minority Business Enterprise, Pavement Restorations, a Women's Business Enterprise, Roy T. Goodwin, and Walker Building Group. All received satisfactory rankings, and all of the reference checks were provided and exceeded expectations. So the agency is pleased with all 4 companies offering on-call sidewalks and bus platform construction. So we request the board to provide the Chief Executive Officer the authority to enter 5 years with 2 additional 1-year terms, task order-based contracts with BC Mason Group, Pavement Restorations, Roy T. Goodwin, and Walker Building Group to provide sidewalk and platform construction for a total contract budget of $15 million. The work will be funded using Improve Act and Metro Capital Spending Plan funds in the capital plan for the transit stop improvements.
Thank you, Lydia. Any questions for Lydia, about the on-call contractor for sidewalk and bus platform construction? I have one. Is this for 1 year? Is this for a number of years?
This is for a 5-year term and with 2 additional
Oh, here it
1-year
is.
terms.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions for Lydia? Yeah, it's exciting. Well, it is my pleasure as the Chair of Operations and Finance to make the motion to accept the staff recommendation to enter into the contract with BC Mason Pavement Restorations, Roy T. Goodwin, and Walker Building Group to provide sidewalk and platform construction for a total contract budget of $15 million over 5 years.
Thank you, Jessica. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There you go.
We'll be building lots of things.
Sidewalks and bus platforms.
So we're getting new cutaway buses and new sidewalks and bus platforms. We are moving up. So that's all of the business for the Operations and Finance Committee. Madam Chair, I turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jessica. It was a great report, great committee. I'm going to turn this over now to our Vice Chair, Janet Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the New Initiatives and Community Engagement Committee will be convened, and we get to talk about fun, good stuff today. Kia always brings great news. So Kia is going to give us an update on the Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. North Nashville Transit Center, and I believe we have Dr. Leah Rotha Williams Jr. with Tennessee State University with us as well. And if y'all, we saw some photos this week of it, and it's so exciting. It's like having a baby, right, Kia?
Exactly.
It's your baby.
Thank you so much.
I'll hand it over to you.
To Madam Chair, distinguished board members, it is a pleasure to be before you today. Of course, as the project is progressing at the Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. North Nashville Transit Center, we wanted to bring you a little information about the art installation. So this is the fun part. We definitely have had a great time bringing the artists and the community together for this project. So I'm not going to labor long. I want to introduce our curator, which is with Don Hardin Group, Trey Hardin. He will basically provide some information, and then after that, we will have Dr. Williams, who is a professor at Tennessee State University, who is our historian. So, stay in your seats, be ready for this, because it's a great opportunity. Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank
Good
you all
afternoon,
for,
Mr. Hardin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Williams and the rest of the board for having me, and all of you for being here. I'm really excited about this presentation. I think I can click. So we're here to talk about the Voices of North Nashville, which is the theme we've set for public art. I think it's especially exciting to be here in February as we celebrate Black History Month, to share a little bit about this project and kind of where we're at and where we're headed. So today we've got Dr. Williams here from Tennessee State, and I'll introduce him briefly, but I'll give you a little bit of background on how we got here before I let Dr. Williams come up and speak. I believe over 2 years ago, we started having visioning meetings, and Dr. Williams and Mr. Bland, you were a part of that, and a number of others. And we had a few meetings, and we were really just talking. We had a lot of interactive kind of writing activities that we were doing, a lot of conversation about what a North Nashville Transit Center might mean for the community. What types of things beyond, catching the bus could people come and experience in this space. And one of the key things was art and space for art and creativity. And with that, we implemented, or the designers implemented the plaza area and a number of other spaces throughout the site. So the theme that we settled on was Voices of North Nashville. We're talking about the voices of the past, the voices of the present, and the voices of the future. And the first person I want to bring up and talk about is Dr. Williams, Tennessee State professor of history. And he's been really key in working with us to learn a little bit more about the Freedom Rides and the Freedom Riders, Dr. Patton, and what that movement specifically had a tie, how that movement specifically had a tie to this community. So I will invite Dr. Williams up to share more.
Okay, Madam Chair and the board,
Thank you for being here, Dr. Williams. It's really good to see you.
it's good to see you as well. I kind of dragging a little bit because I had class prior to coming here, and we met at the public square today, and we were talking about the history of the square, and it started raining on us. But my students stuck with me, so I'm grateful for that. But I consider this an honor and a privilege to be a part of this project. This project, in many ways, is an effort to do right by a group of people that we ignored for a very long time. TSU did not offer these students their degrees until 2008, a year before I got in. And that's when they bestowed the honorary doctorates to them. But as we think of that, we must remember that some of those folks are no longer with us. So for me, in my mind, as a historian who likes to think about what people are doing that are on the margins, to think about people's histories who we might have ordinarily overlooked, or just to think about in terms of memory, what we remember, what we forget, and who determines those things. I think this project will go a long way in to help us understanding one of the most important chapters in Nashville's history, if not this nation's history. Okay. And more importantly, this is a story about us. I'm honored to be associated with these two artists on the screen here. Anytime I get a chance to tell the story of the city outside of the classroom or using new mediums, it helps me as an historian and as a scholar. And particularly when the guys are brilliant, such as Lysander and Woke 3 are, they make me look good. They make the university look good. Okay. There are a couple of things I want to talk about very briefly. The 1961 Freedom Rides and what this meant to the city in particular. The Freedom Rides began in 1961 essentially as a test because we had these laws in place that basically said that it was illegal to discriminate in public transportation, right? We had these laws in place that said that the spaces where these buses went needed to be integrated, but you had laws on the books that were not being enforced. So young people, and I think this is one of the most important aspects of this story, young people decided to push the nation to do like it was supposed to do, to behave like it was supposed to behave, to line up the words that was in the Constitution to what we saw every day. It was young people. So the movement began, then it stalled in Birmingham. And the original riders faced violence. They faced some of the most virulent racism that we can conceptualize in Birmingham. But the students in this city, right? Students that were attending school in North Nashville. So of course you got Fisk, you got TSU, you got Meharry, you got American Baptists who are producing people that are saying, okay, we are going to make things right, even if it costs us our lives. And we're mindful that these young folks, if you remember that interview where Diane Nash says that we've made our wills. Okay, and they're 19, 20 years old making wills. Some of us are a little bit older than that and ain't got wheels, right? So they are thinking in terms of this. They're embracing the moment. So oftentimes think that when a person catches the bus, whether they get off on the bus or they're getting on a bus at this station, that story will come to mind that these were young people who decided to make change. Young people that said, hey, we need to do something right now. I'm employed at TSU, and I'm a historian, and I'm kind of a hype man, if you will, for North Nashville. And I'm always pushing folks to consider that we do a whole lot more than sing and dance in North Nashville, right? North Nashville is an intellectual hub that produced W.E.B. Du Bois, that produced John Hope Franklin, that produced others who would go on to change the world. But oftentimes we don't give these young folks the credit that they deserve. And we're going to give them credit with this space. North Nashville, I humbly submit to you, is a stage upon which one of the greatest dramas in American history played out. And these students that sat down at these lunch counters, these students that got on these buses and say, hey, we need to go to Birmingham to make sure this movement doesn't die. They are actors upon this stage. And this is important. As I look at this photograph and smile, I see some faces that I studied in high school. Sadly, some of them are no longer with us. But nonetheless, I see the face of young folks who became elders, and those of them who are still with us can tell us about these moments. So I don't know. I'll tell you what I got planned for this center as soon as it get up and running. TSU will be having a class down there at that site. And I'm hoping that I can invite some of these folks to come down here to share their memories with us, to tell us their feelings, their emotions, what they accomplished, but also to give us some insight into maybe where they stumbled a little bit. So this site can be a space of learning, it can be a space of inspiration, it can be a space where we are affirmed, but it can also be a space where life lessons are told. So I'm feeling like I'm going over time because they didn't give me a time limit, but if y'all...
Just keep going. Go as long as you want.
But we are fortunate that some of these folks are still with us today where they can talk about what they've seen in those experiences and also inspire our young people to do great things. The last thing, and then I'll sit down. These young people are not too different from some of the young folks that I just left at the public square. Some of the things they have in common, I think my students are pretty audacious, right? They don't want to take no for an answer. And if things ain't moving the way they're supposed to be moving, they're going to get out and make sure that things go a little bit better. And when I say that about my students, I see Dr. Patton. I see heroes that have laid a foundation upon which we can build. So when these students go through there and they read these words that we wrestled through, when they tweak to try to find the proper way to tell the story, they'll read that and hopefully become inspired. and they'll look at these quotes that are on the ground and see some inspiration as well. So I close by saying this. There are several transit stations around town. There are a lot of bus stops around town, but I humbly submit to you that none of them are more important than the one that you're working on now. So thank you for your time and your attention.
A round of applause here. Dr. Williams, you are an inspiration. Know that. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
You are, and thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for being so much a part of this project. You know, we celebrated King Highland's life this past weekend, and so many of these stories were shared by so many people, and it's so much the heart of Nashville, and as much as it's North Nashville, so much of the work and the sweat and the tears and the pain by all of these heroes made Nashville what it is. And I think being able to tell this story and you coming to us to tell the story and how you tell the story and knowing you are telling younger students the story, because everybody don't want to tell our stories anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So you're there telling the story, and I just appreciate you. As Janet said, you know, you are inspiring, and we are lucky, so lucky, first to be able to build this center, and secondly, to have a community led by heroes like you to make this such a legendary place that it's just for generations and generations and generations to learn from, grow in, and be proud of. Right. So thank you for coming and just bringing it today. Thank you.
Bringing it, I know. We're going to ask you to come every month. Inspire us.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Williams. I have a little bit more to share with you, but I won't share too much, as you know, there's nothing better than experiencing the art itself. But kind of moving forward, Woke and Lysander are not here with us today, but I'll share a little bit about what they're working on. Woke is doing the Voices of the Future, which is a mural inside of the plaza area of the transit center. This project has been particularly, I guess, exciting and challenging for Woke because of the surfaces of this space. When you're a muralist, if it's a perfect world, you want a big blank wall that is huge and white and completely even. But we threw some challenges at Woke, and he's kind of taken it head on. And I will kind of share a little bit about kind of his his rough sketches. And Woke will tell you the way that he likes to work is he'll go in with a theme, but he's live painting when he's on the wall. He's really incorporating the stories that he's received. And I want to back up a little bit and thank Kia and Fairpoint Planning, who's actually not here. We've had a number of meetings in person throughout North Nashville, and even we had 2 virtual meetings this week in which we're engaging with the artists and community members, accepting feedback. There's a survey that's going around. Woke specifically has a prompt that he's actually trying to gather voices of children. So he's asking for any parents or children who are interested in sharing their stories and their ideas of envisioning the future with him. So I will find a way to make my contact available to everyone if you know someone who might be interested in sharing. Before I move on, I also do want to note, as we look at the past and the history and figures in North Nashville, one person that we lost recently who has been a giant for this community, specifically through the arts, is Mr. Nate Harris. Nate Harris was the owner and founder of Woodcuts Gallery, which has been in operation over 30 years on Jefferson Street by Fisk. And he passed away this month. And he was actually involved in this project. He was showing up to those meetings that we were having and wanted to be interviewed and kind of a part of this. So I just want to honor him and acknowledge his passing today. So with that being said, I will move on to Voices of the Present. Lysander Bryan is a local photographer and videographer. He's got a very unique style of capturing distinct, crisp imagery, but also challenging the viewers in the way that they think. So he likes to use messaging and large blocks of text that might pose questions. He's done a lot of wheat pastings around town. And I think he actually has a bus shelter on Nolensville Pike also. So he's already familiar with the WeGo world. And this is just some of his work samples. We actually got a little preview earlier this week of the video, which I don't have today, but there are a lot of different angles, a lot of different shots of North Nashville that you probably have not seen before. He's been riding the buses, interviewing lots of community members, and we're really excited about the video that he will have, which will be in the lobby space. I've mistakenly called it a gallery, but in a way he's corrected me and said, well, in a way we are turning it into a bit of a gallery. So that's something that we're really excited about. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to us and to hear what we're working on. And if there are any questions, I'll hang around for a little bit and answer that. And then after
My
the
question is,
meeting,
when do we get to see all this? Kia, are we on time?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know, we are working very hard to get the site open and ready. Of course, you know, there are delays. This is construction.
Sure.
So let's be real and honest about that. We are still in the, spring 2024. I'm sticking to that. Spring 2024. So that's what we're going with.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great. So
All right.
exciting. Any questions or comments?
And on budget.
And on budget.
I'm under
the
budget.
other
I'm
important
under
thing,
budget.
right?
Yes.
Other comments, Madam Chair.
Exciting. Thank you for bringing us the update, Mr. Harden. Great job. Thank you for making certain all of this art world is so much a part of the center. So thank you very much.
Steve. Yes.
If I just make a point, because he's usually watching, I do want to point out to former board member, Mr. Searcy, that there will be checker tables.
Excellent, excellent. Any other comments, questions? Well, I got to tell you.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just
Catherine.
wanted to thank everybody. I'm a late addition to the board, and so I cannot, I can't say that I was involved in any of the planning or the approval, but it's so exciting to see. And so I'm delighted to be here kind of riding all the coattails of everyone who's done some incredible work to date. It's just delightful and bright and vibrant, and I cannot wait to see it. And I can't take any credit for it, but I will be there.
Oh, don't worry, Catherine. You'll be on the front end of a lot more.
That's right. So I think that I got the prize committee today because we got to talk about that, and they talked about cutaway buses in the other committee. So winning on the nice committee today. So with that, again, thank you, Dr. Williams, for being here. Thank you to the whole team. It's so inspiring. We can't wait until spring to see the unveiling of the station. So thank you all so much. So with that, that is the conclusion of the new initiatives and community engagement committee.
Great, great, great report. Carl, don't worry. Yours was great. We enjoyed it. Yeah, it was great. Can't wait to see those cutaways at the Rip Patton North Nashville Transit Center, right? Maybe we could take some of the art in there and make posters and put them on your cutaways. There we go. This is awesome. Thank you, Ms. Miller. I appreciate it. Mr. Bland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. That's a tough act to follow, so I'm not sure I even want to try. And I think you heard Trey and Dr. Williams allude to it. I think for me, one of the things that was most exciting about this project was to watch how the community engagement grew over a period of time. I can remember some of the earliest meetings we did up in the neighborhood. People were a little skeptical about what we might have been trying to do. And, you know, as one person got on board, and we had tremendous leadership from our council members up in that area to kind of introduce us to community leadership. So for me, even beyond the images are beautiful, I think the facility is going to be beautiful, but to actually watch people kind of start getting on that bus and getting engaged was really, really, really encouraging, and I think something we can build on. So with that, we are continuing to have staff working on our spring service changes. The Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. North Nashville Transit Center would be a beautiful building, but without significantly enhanced services. All it would be is an art gallery. So we do intend to make it a place where people can not only make community connections, but actually make physical mobility connections with those service changes. So a lot of changes in route structure, and Katie leads our group periodically, and we had a meeting today, and all sorts of things going on from, we will be reopening the Maya facility to daily bus operations. The fleet size will have gotten to a point where we can't sustain the entire day-to-day operation at the Nestor facility. And just reactivating that facility is a tremendous amount of work, and Andy and his team and Carl have been instrumental in that. As Andy pointed out to me, there has to be a complete retraining to Maya. We stopped daily operations there in 2019 when we did the service reductions. We now have 200 bus operators who have never worked out of the Maya facility and are completely unfamiliar with the Maya facility. So I think I saw Kim Tucker in the room somewhere earlier. You're here, aren't you, Kim? Yeah, she's hiding behind Denise. Just the training effort to get that activated is super important. But as a reminder, we'll have 7 routes that intersect at that transit center. So the mobility connections that it will afford are tremendous for that neighborhood. This past month, I got to participate in the staff and board workshop for Walk Bike Nashville, one of our crucial advocacy groups. As with Lydia's message, if you can't walk to the bus stop, it's kind of hard to ride the bus. So their mission is critically important to us. We exchanged information on a lot of activities of mutual interest. So it was a great group. Our public spokesman today stole one of my, I'm checking off the list with items on my list. Jessica stole 2 of them, and our community speaker stole 1. He did allude to, on March 1st, we are revising our policy with respect to e-bikes and having those in our bike racks and on our buses. I want to give a shout out to Nick was mentioned earlier, Nick Oldham, our Chief Safety and Security Officer. Obviously, our primary focus is always safety, so when those requests came in, Nick did an extensive amount of research in the industry with the manufacturers, ran it through our safety committee, and was able to get those policy changes made. So any of our riders who are interested in taking advantage of that, the policies are posted on our website under the Bike and Ride section of the website. So I call folks' attention to that. Jessica covered I was going to point out that our budget submission is in the information only if you didn't have a chance to read it. I was going to hit some highlights, but Jessica already hit them for me. We will be meeting with Metro Finance and the mayor's office during the first week of March, Ed and myself, to discuss those proposals and hopefully get some support for even more good stuff in the upcoming year. Last month, I reported that the mayor submitted a capital spending plan to the council that recommended the allocation of about $30.8 million to MTA for a variety of transit projects, including bus stop and shelter projects, including more cutaways. Now, the order you approved today were paid for with prior funds, so we weren't going too far out on a limb. But Carl, you can get ready to place the next order next year with the approval of council just the other night. So very pleased and thankful to our council for acting on the mayor's recommendation. Jessica also alluded to last week, we announced our first community impact partnership. Just a month or 2 ago, you all approved change in policy, jumping right in just in time for the start of their upcoming soccer season with Nashville SC. So thanks to this agreement and the support of the team, on weekend game days, we'll be offering all-day free fares on our Route 52 Nolensville Pike and our Route 77 Thompson Wedgwood buses. Those are the 2 bus routes that are in closest proximity to Geodis Park. So we'll look forward to seeing you all on the bus in your blue and gold to cheer on the team. In addition, we'll be reinstituting the pilot service that we ran last year from the City of Murfreesboro Park and Ride lot and also our Antioch Park and Ride. And that will be at a $2 fare with all quick ticket fare media applicable to that. Want to join Jessica in congratulating Renuka and kind of sealing the deal, and our marketing team and our operations team for putting the whole program together. This month in Nashville, the board of directors of the Tennessee Public Transportation Association met. We also had our day on the Hill where we meet with a lot of our legislators, attend committee meetings. Had a terrific legislative reception with a great turnout from our local state representatives, state senators, and state representatives. And a probably less wise move, the association elected me as their president for the upcoming 2-year term. So that will be happening as well. Got to participate this past month in a panel discussion with Michael Briggs, who's Mayor O'Connell's Director of Transportation Planning, and Marty Sewell, who you all seen before, Director of Planning for NDOT, specifically focused on a lot of mobility initiatives and specifically the Connect Downtown plan that NDOT's working on in cooperation with ourselves, the Nashville Downtown Partnership, and TDOT. That was with the Urban Land Institute's Nashville chapter, so a lot of real estate folks who are super interested in emerging trends and changes in transit in Nashville. On February 5th, a lot of us turned out, certainly Jessica, Chair Gil Carr-Williams, Mayor O'Connell, State Representative Harold Love, and a number of others to celebrate Transit Equity Day. Transit Equity Day is a nationwide celebration, generally celebrated on the birthday of Rosa Parks to commemorate advances made in social equity and public transportation's role in that. And love the story of Representative Love, who spearheaded us starting this several years ago when he introduced legislation statewide to recognize that date. And as he reminded me, the first time we did it, it was just he and I riding a bus. He also reminded everyone I got him on the wrong bus. But somehow we did make it back, and I think Gail and Jessica would attest. We had a full bus going out toward Fisk University for a number of great speakers. Continue to update you on a couple of events on the RTA side. We're continuing to advance land acquisition toward a permanent park and ride location in the city of Murfreesboro. And we're buying property from a church adjacent to the city's under construction transit center and transit operations facility, and just waiting for the church board to act, on the sale of that property. Yesterday, the Hatch Consulting Group, who's doing work on our STAR Future Vision study, presented their tentative, where they are up to date to the RTA board. This is one of those months where RTA and MTA boards meet in the same week. They presented some interim recommendations on a short and long-term basis, and the board is asking them to move forward with more detailed modeling on cost, operations, another phase of community engagement, and we expect to bring final recommendations to the RTA board in the next few months. And when that comes through, we'll probably give you all a form of update too, because some of that does have interoperability and interaction with MTA services. Another project that definitely will have an interaction with MTA is we're continuing to work with the development team at HG Hill and Southeast Venture on a joint development project at Donaldson Station. And if we bring that to fruition, as we're all optimistic that we will, it will also incorporate a full-blown neighborhood transit center as part of the station project for Donaldson. And at yesterday's RTA board meeting, the board approved an action for us to bring on board Jones Long LaSalle Real Estate to be our real estate advisor and to help us prepare a lot of the documentation we're going to need for Federal Transit Administration approval. And then maybe most noteworthy for the RTA is earlier this month, the General Assembly approved legislation to extend the life of the RTA another 8 years through June 30th, 2032. It's currently on the governor's desk awaiting signature, and we expect that he'll probably do that any day now. And then finally, last item I would report on, probably certainly not breaking news here, but I was pleased to join our board chair, Gil Carr-Williams, and others with Mayor O'Connell several days ago as he announced his intention to pursue a transit referendum in this upcoming November ballot time frame. And I want to especially call out a number of our staff members, but specifically Felix Castrodad, Katie Freudberg, Lydia Benda, Dan Freudberg, and Hannah Schaefer, who've been actively supporting developing potential various project elements that might work their way into that program of projects. We're working closely with NDOT, Metro Finance, Metro Planning, the Mayor's Office to try to, in a very accelerated time frame, work with the community to develop something viable for November. So with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Steve? Steve does such a comprehensive, great report, and so I appreciate all that. So I'm going to start where you ended, and say I too am grateful that I had an opportunity to be invited to the press conference with the announcement of the mayor's announcement of the referendum, which is just lead me to have these comments. I think it's important for us as a board to really think about it and to understand it. And so to that matter, and what our role will be with it. And so to that, I'd like to propose for us to have a session that is all about the referendum and about transit in Nashville. We've talked in the past. And I think, Janet, you urged us to do this, to have some time with transit organizations like Transit Alliance and other transits to inform us as to where they are, exactly what are their missions and how they're doing the work that they do around transit. And then maybe have them come and visit with us, share that information, and then from there we have a discussion about what do we think about the referendum and our role. I know Steve and his staff are working diligently, as he just mentioned, but I think transit is hot right now. I'm glad that it's hot right now because it's really important for our city. As our city grows, it's important for our citizens, but it's also really important for us as a board to have good governance around this. And it's also important for us as a board to understand everything that is being talked about. And so we understand it to be able to make the best decisions that we can make at this table. We have been entrusted with an absolutely amazing opportunity, and I always feel humbled and privileged to sit at this table. So it's also important for us to be well studied and well taught, Dr. Williams, as we go forward, as we do the things we do. So if you all are okay with that, us having a special session, I will have Monica and Steve work on our calendars, and I'm also going to ask that we push it, like that we get it done really quickly, sooner than later. I'd really like for us to have had this opportunity to have these thinking moments. So when Monica asks you for a date, myself included, get back to her right away. I'm a little slow sometimes too, but I think the sooner the better. And to staff, I know you all are being asked different things around the city and other things. If you have questions for us, just don't hesitate. It's a busy time. So thank you. You all are good with us sort of doing a session of that sort. And certainly we'll seek the advice of all of you to see which organizations we should invite to this learning session and sort of go from there. So I'm excited. It's just exciting times right now. And I think we're going to be leaders. We've been leaders. And we'll continue to be a leader. So we just have to be great and thoughtful leaders. So to that, thank you. So I had fun at Transit Equity Day too. I got to ride on the bus coming back with Kia, and we got to talk about a lot of different things, but and to you, Dr. Williams, we have this Transit Equity Day, and we're still talking about a lot of the same things we talked about when our Freedom Riders were present. And the fact that we did it at beautiful Fisk University and in the library, where so much in that same space, the magic was there, and you could sort of feel the history, and you could just know how important this continues to be for our society. So thank you, Steve, and I think Renuka and her team sort of organized the day. So thank you very much. And Representative Love was very good, told very good stories, and did tell that story on you, Steve. At least y'all were together, right? You know, so I was really excited. I thought it was a good day. And the other thing, being at Fisk, reminded me that I hear all the time from people in the community about the bus passes for HBCU students. And I heard that over and over again, how great it is for the students here at the schools. And we have a very good ad on 92 radio. I don't know if any 92Q is a 92Q, right? I hear it on 92Q, and we have a really good slogan. Is it "We go where what is it? We go where we go." Who knows what the slogan is? It's very catchy, but maybe not. Yeah, but it's awesome. Yeah, I got to read this thing, but it's a very catchy slogan. But I hear people in the community really grateful that we have rides for students at the HBCU. So thank you very much for that. And Excited about the budget, Ed. Great job. I don't want to not say that again because that's so important for how we do all that we do. So I don't have anything further. If anybody else have any questions of me? If not, I think I can do a motion for adjournment. If we good with that? We're good. I'm sure y'all. I move for adjournment.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.